Tend to forget who the F we are. We just roll into the day and let the day rule us. Why don't I ever change? I still at the same spot when we have all of this power within ourselves. If you clicked on this video, it's because at one moment or right now, you're feeling stuck. And I wanted to get on here and explain exactly how to get yourself unstuck, because at one point in our lives, we are going to feel this way. And it's very, very, very common. So if you're feeling like you're stuck in the current job that you're at, or the current relationships that you're in, or just in general, like don't know what to do, you just feel like you're not really progressing, then this video is for you. I've been there too. I felt stuck so many times in my life, especially when I was going through my worst parts or my character building moments in my life. What I'm talking about is when I was a single mom and I lived at my parents' house. I felt like, what am I going to do to get out of this position? What am I going to do to be able to be more independent and be able to take care of my kids by myself and give them a home and all of this and all of that? So I had a lot of ideas that I knew that I wanted and a lot that I knew that I didn't want. And being in that middle stance where I didn't have enough money to move out, or I didn't have enough support to do the things that I wanted to do, made me feel very, very, very stuck. So the first tip that I wanted to draw on is become aware. What does this mean? Well, a lot of us, we tend to give our attention to everything around us. I'm talking about TV, Netflix, social media, friendships, our careers or debt, anything that distracts us or we have to use our attention towards, we are becoming, I call it attention fatigue. So what I did was I went within myself. A lot of people don't study themselves to the point to become super aware of exactly what they want. They sit around and they go on social media and they look at these videos and they look at reels and all that stuff. And what it does is gives them these little dopamine hits. And by the time you're done watching all of that stuff, you feel exhausted. Your attention is exhausted, literally. So when I say study yourself, this is when you become quiet. And I'm not talking about meditation, although it's very, very good. I'm talking about asking yourself questions like, what do I really want out of life? I have one life. If I were to pass away in 2 days, what do I want to do? And get yourself excited with exactly what it is that you want. In previous videos, I always stress about and talk about writing down your goals, writing down your dreams, because there's something magical about grabbing a pen and having a piece of paper and just being with yourself in that moment while you're writing things down and you're like, okay, this is what I want. This is the kind of car I want to drive. This is the kind of home I want to live in. This is the kind of money I want to make. This is the kind of pets that I want, or husband or friends and stuff like that. And just getting really, really, really super clear, because when you get super clear about what you actually want, then what you don't want, you'll know how to put boundaries around, right? So if you're over here trying to lose a couple of pounds, release a couple of pounds, then you know going out every weekend to brunch and having alcohol and having all of this stuff every weekend, you know is not going to benefit the actual goal of releasing that weight, right? So that's just one example, but we can do other examples like hanging out with your friends every weekend and not really dedicating that time to your passion project, or dedicating that time to content creating if that's something that you're trying to do or want to do, or dedicating that time to your family. Whatever it is that you want to do, you write it down. That way, whatever comes, obstacles or distractions come your way, you can set boundaries and be like, no, this does not align with the actual things that I want. That includes social media. The amount of times that I have to detox myself from social media is bananas, because the way that it works, it's for you to be stuck there for a very, 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 very long time. And me being a mom and a wife and trying to do a YouTube, being on social media is exhausting. The amount of things that you're learning and the amount of things that they're throwing at you, all of a sudden you're comparing yourself. And that's another thing. If you're constantly looking at people and you're like, oh, I want to be like them, right? Because we all do that at one point whenever you run into that one person, you're like, or that account, you're like, oh my gosh, what a beautiful life, right? We're humans. So we compare ourselves naturally. Imagine comparing yourself every single day. That's not natural. That's not natural. Eventually, you're going to start looking around and saying to yourself, you're not good enough, when you are. You are more than good enough. So my first tip was for you to be aware of your attention fatigue. If you love social media and you love videos like this, it's okay to watch them. But have like a set time in the day where you're like, you know what, when it's this time, it's just me and that, right? For 1 hour. That's okay. But it's when you kind of do it without noticing. And you do it all the time. So now you're going to the bathroom, your phone is in your hand. Now it's lunchtime at your job, and instead of reading that book that you've been trying to read, you're on social media, right? It's things like that. Or when you're eating, you're on social media. Be more aware of yourself. And a bonus tip to add to that is journaling. I know you heard it all over the place and you know about it, but have you really picked up your journal and started writing in it? So let's start doing that. A question I love to ask myself is, what would make today great? And that question came from like the 5-minute journal. It's one of the questions there. What would make today great? And I just picture myself, and I do this at night. So I picture myself the next day just going over like the whole day. What would make tomorrow great? Tomorrow, these are my examples. I would feel great if I would eat healthy and spend time with my children, have the house somewhat look normal, because I have come to the realization with kids, it's kind of all over the place, which is okay. The house is all over the place. That's fine. But if I have all my laundry done, I feel good. So it's like little wins that you can find throughout your day. So before you go to sleep, ask yourself, what would make tomorrow great for me? I had to change my camera around because the way that the sun's coming in. So anyway, this next tip is all about habits. Whenever you watch a video about habits and they give you like 7-8 habits, it's not for you to do that same month. Habits, if you want to stick through them, you're supposed to just pick 1 or 2 habits at a time. Because what ends up happening if you pick more than 2 habits is your brain starts telling you, what are we doing here? And it'll go right back to the old habits, and then you're looking at yourself like, why don't I ever change? Why am I still at the same spot? Well, that's because you put your whole body into overload in these 8 new habits that you haven't mastered yet. And now your body's like, we're not doing any of them. So what I would suggest, this goes for me too. In a lot of videos, I give you guys a lot of tips. Grab 1 or 2. And if it's in this video or whatever video you watch or whatever book you're reading, grab 1 or 2 habits and just stick through it at least for 30 days before you start adding a 3rd habit, and then a 4th habit and a 5th habit, because you really want to master 1 or 2 habits and have it be already built into your schedule. More like not being built into your schedule, but like if it comes as natural as brushing your teeth in the morning and doing your morning routine, it's supposed to just be a natural thing, not a thing that you think about. You're like, oh yeah, I have to journal tonight. It's already part of you. It's already part of your habits. And I know I give you a lot of tips on here about journaling and action steps and all of this and all that, but just choose 1 or 2, stick with it until you feel like weird the day that you forget that you didn't do your habit. Does that make sense? Instead of just waking up one day and just completely forgetting all about your habits. That's why you just choose 1 or 2. And this rolls into my last tip for you. Build a routine that's going to feed into your goals. A lot of us pass the day just doing our priorities. I was victim of that too. I would wake up, go to work, go pick up my kids from school, help them with homework, feed them, clean the house, do the laundry, and then it would be 9 p.m. and I would be so exhausted. It's time for me now to take a shower and get ready for bed and scroll a little bit if I even had that kind of time. The moment I sat down with myself and I mapped out my time and I said, okay, see right here, this is a time waster. And I started implementing, if I can do 30 minutes or an hour towards my goal, I'm going to be way ahead in my goal than if I don't sit down and eliminate all of these distractions. Because there are distractions in your life. You're just not aware of it because you're not sitting with yourself and you're not evaluating where your time is going. The moment, and it's so tedious, but I promise you that when you start actually logging your time, you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I spent that much time doing this. I can definitely not do that and spend that time towards my goals. And I promise you, when you start spending time towards your goals, you will get yourself unstuck because you're in action mode. But when you're stuck, you are more in your mind and more stagnant, literally, like you're not moving, you're not doing much of anything, you're more in your mind than actually putting in action. Because once you put it in action, that's when you start moving forward. And then you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, look, I'm unstuck, right? Because it's something that you don't realize that you're out of until you look back and you're like, hey, I don't feel stuck anymore. And that's where we want to be, right? And I want to leave you with this, I guess, bonus tip that I just heard Bob Proctor say when I was taking his lessons. He said, and I wrote it down, and it was so funny because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do a video on that, so this is perfect. It's a different perception. So he says, we become stuck when we separate ourselves from the power within and think we are an individual expression and different from everyone else. We are all essentially the same. We are an expression of an infinite power, and there is no end to what we are capable of doing. And I love that because we tend to forget who the F we are when we have all of this power within ourselves. We are not much different, you and I. And naturally, genetically, we are, but what we contain inside, we are much the same. So I love how he said that because it's a different perception of saying, am I really utilizing all the God-given gifts that I was given at birth? Or am I kind of wasting it day by day? And if you're real with yourself, most of the time we are wasting it. Most of the time we're not even touching the surface of our potential. And I know that if you sit down with yourself, evaluate where your time is going, and make a list of the things that you want, evaluate where your time is going, and make a map of, okay, this is where I'm gonna allocate 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it can be once a week, twice a week, 5 days a week to my goals. You'll be way further ahead, and for sure you will feel unstuck. Now, if you made it this far, I am super proud of you. This means that you're taking that first step towards yourself. You're taking that first step to get yourself into gear and really go after everything and anything that you desire, because you deserve it. At the end of the day, we have one life, guys. You deserve to live it the way that you want to. And because, of course, you have the power to. Now, if you like content like this, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe. The more you like the video, the more it gets out there in the algorithm, and it can help other people, women in your situation. So help out the algorithm, push out the video, like it, share it with your friends, family, whoever you think would benefit from it. And I would love to hear your comments below about what you're stuck about, or what habit you're gonna try to incorporate into your routine, or what you like most about the video. If you don't want to share that because you feel like it's too personal, just put a rocket ship, just letting us know that you are on your way up. And like I said on my previous video, I am trying to be more consistent this month, and I just love reading all of your comments. It fills me up with love, it gives me a smile on my face, and I just appreciate you guys. So until the next video, bye.